There's an apartment below mine on the 13th floor, the 6th unit at the end of the hall on the left. I know apartment buildings, hotels and whatnot. I try to avoid the truth about the 13th floor, so technically it's apartment 1406, but I'd rather stick to the truth. You see, up until about 2 months ago, that place wasn't for rent, from what I knew, but then a month later I had heard someone moved in. I can't say whether I was excited or not, I just hoped they wouldn't be partiers because I enjoyed my sleep. Then 1 month later things started to take a turn. I had heard some noises coming from below, like shuffling around. 2 days later there were more noises, like banging and muffled thumps. 1 day later I started to hear yelling. I was reluctant to call the police or the owner of the building, thinking it was a one-time thing since there hadn't been any problems since they first moved in. I was wrong. About a week had passed and no noises were coming from below, so I had finally thought it was over. Wrong again. About 3:28 in the morning I heard a scream and loud thumping noises. Man, was I annoyed. I headed out my door, and when I took the first step out the door I heard more screaming. It sounded like a woman, but I didn't care at that moment. I just stormed off down the hallway to the exit stairs, and when I got to the apartment I banged as loud as I could on the door. Not 3 seconds later, on the other side of the door, someone bangs the door back at me. I grew increasingly angry and kicked the door with my foot, hard and loud. The whole floor probably heard me, but I didn't care. The same thing happens, but this time the person bangs twice. I tried negotiating with whoever it was on the other side by saying, "Keep it down or I'm calling the police." As soon as I finished my sentence, there was scratching on the other side of the door. Then I heard the sound of a woman crying. I gave up. I'm about to leave and my bare foot stepped in something wet and warm. I looked down and what I saw changed my view of horror forever. What I saw was a deep crimson-red pool of blood oozing out from underneath the door. I stood there, paralysed in fear. It was just leaking from underneath. The sound of scratching filled my ears, but my brain failed to acknowledge it. Then I got a burst of energy and decided to use it wisely by charging up the exit stairs, down my hallway and back into the safety of my apartment. I didn't get any sleep that night. All I heard from downstairs are some muffled thumps. The next morning I decided to call the owner to notify him of the night before and that I'm calling the police. I tell him the noise and screaming, but not of the blood. I don't know why, but it seems a little too unreal. I guess that's the word, but when I finish, what he tells me next makes the blood look like a normal occurrence that night. He said, "But that unit's been empty since the building was built." I just stood there holding the phone once again, fear gripping me and unable to move. He asks if I'm there. "It's probably just the pipes, man," he says casually and hangs up. These events mentioned here happened in 2002. It's been 10 years now and I've since moved away. From what I know, there was a fire that destroyed half of the building and made it uninhabitable. The news said it started a new unit, but they didn't release the number. I already knew which one it was. The building was torn down and they have built a park there for kids in its place. You know, sometimes I can still hear the screaming whenever I drive by there at night.